Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis show. On this episode, one of my good buddies, love hanging out with her, love chatting with her, Carol Carpenter, racing extraordinaire, and just, yeah, badass. Like to set the example early and set the bar high. Carol, how you doing today?
Good. I'm just going to let you know that I never get up early for anybody but for you and Camden, I did.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Usually I don't skip a workout, but I actually skipped here with you today.
Well, one of the things that I've always been fascinated with, and because it's the complete opposite of my, I'm not really like, yeah, you could call it lifestyle, but my timing, right, is people that are professional athletes tend to go into the evening when they do stuff, whether it's because of the competition or whatever, which means their mornings are, later. And have you always been in that cycle or just since you've been in competition?
No. So I like the nightlife, but then I can't help but get up early. And because I'm an early bird too, so it lends to like very little sleep anyways. And I think I went 1 year where I think I got like 4 hours of sleep, and my acupuncturist was like going to ding me over the head because she was like, you can't keep functioning that way, because I work out every morning, right? So I'll get up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, work out, and then go do my thing. So, and I've got two companies, actually three now. So, yeah. So
Yeah, that other one.
that other one that we just started this year. Yeah, that one, so I don't know. I think I feel like I always have a ton to do, but a workout is not something I like to miss. And if I do miss a morning, if I feel okay, I'll throw in a yoga workout in the afternoon. So I'll
How do
probably.
you keep your energy level so high throughout the day? Because when you're talking about staying up late because you enjoy the nightlife, that's when the good TV's on and all that kind of stuff. But then you're still waking up early to work out. Got three companies to run. I mean, are you taking the afternoon nap? What's the secret?
I can't take afternoon naps. I've tried it and it just screws up my sleep even more. I stay up even later. So it makes it really bad. And I have an internal clock that literally wakes me up at like 5:30, even before my alarm goes off.
Oh,
So
wow.
energy level, I guess, quite honestly, Camden, I've been a vegetarian or a vegan, quote unquote, right, most of my life since I was 16 years old. So I've never really eaten a lot of meat. And I think maybe that's the difference. I don't know. I'm allergic to a lot of things. I can't drink dairy or eat cheeses unless it's like sheep or what's the other one?
I don't know, cats, dogs.
No,
We're a cow milk family, so
Yeah.
well, it's Asian culture.
Almonds.
You can't digest it, right? So I can't eat. I can't have anything of dairy. So there's a lot of things I can't have, and maybe that, I don't know. Nobody's kind of done research on it on me, so maybe that's the cause. Oh,
Well, this isn't where I was thinking we'd go today, but there's some principles in that. Uh, Camden and I talked about this years ago when he was pursuing his high level athleticism career, and man, I can't remember the name of the book now, Camden, or the author, rugby guy that you played in his style, but
Lewis Moody.
Lewis Moody. There you go.
Mad Dog. There you go. Yeah.
Yep. Great book. But what was interesting about it was how much effort he put into what he put into his body and tracking that, and then tracking his performance following that. And as an athlete, whether you're calling yourself, Carol, an athlete or not, I'm calling.
I'm not an athlete anymore, dear.
Yeah, you still are. But you're doing that same thing, and that's something that I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to.
I agree.
Is what do I put into my body, and then how do I feel after I put it in?
Put in output, literally. What you put in is what you get out of it. But because I have so many issues with, dairy-based products, I can't eat eggs. There's a lot of things I can't eat because I know the side effects to me, and it's just not good. So I don't eat them. And my diet is very, in a sense, limited. So maybe it's just because of the way I'm wired. Maybe it's because of my digestive system, that gives me the energy, but it requires a lot of energy to ride a bike, and have that focus, and you're burning calories. And when you get off your bike, you are literally sweating. And most people think, when you ride a motorcycle, oh, well, the motorbike's doing all the work, but
hair's blowing through my hair.
But that's street riding, right?
Yeah.
When we go to track, it's a completely different type of riding. There's a lot of mental focus that goes into it. If your mind's not working because you didn't fuel it and you didn't hydrate it, then that can lead to dire consequences.
I remember actually going to hurt myself with this a little bit, but not that long ago, where I had a conversation with you, Dad, and you made a comment about like, yeah, I'm feeling a little dehydrated. And I remember pausing for a second and being like, what does that even feel like? It was something that I just like, I drink water and I think I'm usually pretty hydrated, but it's something I wasn't paying attention to. And I think that's the interesting thing there is you have to like consciously make that effort to pay attention to those things. So many people treat them as like assumed variables of food equals energy, go work out, like that type of a thing, rather than really taking the time to analyze it a little bit more.
Well, think of what your brain's made of. You don't have water, your brain doesn't work. And so for us, on a hot day, literally we'll tell everybody, make sure you're hydrated. Now, with most people that race, we know hydration is 2 days prior, because by the time you feel like you're dehydrated, it's way too late. You can't hydrate enough. So we always say 2 days prior, especially on hot days, we make sure everybody, like every time you get off the bike, drink a bottle of water, because that's something you don't see. So you just kind of put it off to the background, but you start to get loopy, and that's not a good place to be when you're out on track.
Oh, and I could see that being, sorry, I was just going to add on to that, that I could see that being like, I always talk about, working construction, when I do like landscaping, those type of things, how the most dangerous days were when it wasn't hot, because you wouldn't think you need the water, and then you wind up super dehydrated. I could see it being a similar type of thing riding, to where it's like you're not running to where it's like I feel like I need the water as much, so people can kind of lure themselves into that false sense of security in that way.
Yeah, it's true. Funny, we start a conversation, always ends up going to the side, doesn't it?
Hey, we're chasing rabbits.
Well, what it reminds me of, and there's so many people that operate this way, and I'll call out my son-in-law because he does it too, is they just sit there and work and grind. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I should have had lunch. Didn't even have lunch today. And it's like, dude, you know that the brain requires fuel also. So just like in an athletic performance, this just popped into my head. Cale McCarr sitting on the bench eating a cookie during one of the playoff games, Stanley Cup playoff games. But you know what? That cookie, that sugar in that cookie fed his body to get through that next period. And
it's true. But there's sometimes too, like when I was writing my book, Otis, that I spend 12 hours and I think I ate once because I took a break, because you're so focused, so in the zone, that if you break that focus, your momentum's gone. That flow goes away if you stop.
And I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying with, the dieting and, knowing what you're putting into your body and that kind of stuff, of recognizing what's happening and the outcome that you want, and then the impact that those different things have. Because I'm not like that all the time. I'm very inconsistent with my meals, definitely. But I am also the type where if you talk, like, for example, I would do this a lot when I was working on the farm in Miami with Cobra Valley, that I would rather work, like, if you're talking like a normal work day, 8 hours with a lunch break in the middle, I would rather go 7 or 8 hours straight and then get home a little bit earlier and relax a bit than I would break the cycle, relax, and then get back into it. Like, I'd rather just stay in the rhythm, kind of like you're saying, Carol.
Yeah. Skiing was the same way. I would just ski and carry like a granola bar with me that I would eat on the ski lift. And then I'd ski until like my legs were going to fall off. Right. And then I'd leave the mountain early before everybody else did, because I just didn't want to stop, because the minute you stop, your legs start to ache. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't want to go back up. All those thoughts start to go through your head. And I'm like, I'm getting the most out of my day. I'm going nonstop. People are going to stop for lunch. I'm going to ski while they're lunching. I love it. I love less people around, loved it then. So I don't know. It just kind of depends on your mood. But if you ate well the day before, you kind of get away with that, you know?
Well, and it's also begs the question of do you survive to eat or eat to survive? You know,
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Green Beret.
Yeah.
Eat to survive. That means the granola bar in your pocket and you
Yeah.
keep going, or in the same sense, the way I always did it when it was worked through is it wasn't a break. It was the sandwich in one hand and I'm still going
Right.
and doing whatever in the other hand. You know,
I mean, as entrepreneurs, do we have breaks? Not really. I mean, most of the time we cram pack our day, you know, and sometimes what they don't realize is what they don't see. And there's days where I'll work till super late, you know, like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And those are the things people don't see is how hard you work. And it's the unseen that, you know, gets shit done.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of getting shit done, how I've known you for a while now, and I'm still fascinated by what was it that put you not just on a motorcycle, but racing a motorcycle? There are two different things, like we said, right?
Yeah, no,
You know, there's the Harley cruising down the street, you know, waving at people, and then there's what you do.
The crotch rocket.
Yeah.
I know you probably didn't want to say that. So I said,
no, it's my show. I say what the hell I want.
as rude as you can. Well, I got divorced, you know, and I met my husband at work in corporate, and we decided to get married and have kids. So I left work, and when I did that, I was a full-time mom and wife, and my husband basically was gone probably 85% of the year or more. So it's like being married to somebody in the military, right? He would come home maybe once a week or once a month, sorry. And even the kids, I mean, really didn't know who he was for the longest time. If he picked him up, they'd cry, they didn't recognize him. And, you know, as you get that's pretty hard on a marriage. That type of lifestyle is really hard on a marriage. And we started to grow further apart. So by the time they were teenagers, we got divorced. And I had been out of the workplace for like 20 years. And all those skills that I had were gone. I mean, they were absolutely obsolete. You know, technology had moved forward. I wasn't up to date on any of the stuff. I am technologically challenged, and I will admit that up front with everybody, because, you know, I feel bad for Travis. Sometimes he has to help me troubleshoot stuff because it's just not my forte. It's not my wheelhouse, you know? Yeah. So,
and for those who don't know, she's referring to Travis Johnson, her co-host on the Titan
Evolution podcast.
Evolution. Dang it.
It's okay.
Titan Evolution podcast. So y'all can check that out too.
Thank you.
Public service announcement.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of, at that point, kind of felt lost, wasn't sure what I was going to do. I mean, I knew I had to earn money, do something, right? Because I didn't feel my life was complete. And even when I was going through the divorce, there was this thought that came in my mind: is this all I was put here to do, is be a wife and mother and then just expire after the fact, right? And is this how I'll feel fulfilled? And I have close people around me that I impact on a daily basis, but I just had this, I don't know, need to want to impact on a greater level. And I just said, well, screw it. You know what? I don't know what I want to do. So I'm going to go check off my bucket list items. And one of them happened to be riding a motorcycle. The other was shooting guns. So there we go. You know, most people that ride motorcycles, FYI, shoot guns, believe it or not. And it is a skill set. There is a camp. I'll go sidebar here. There's a camp. It's, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the name. Texas Tornado Boot Camp. And Colin Edwards is the one, ex-amazing racer, puts it on. And you basically ride flat track and race around, this big he puts an awning over, actually he built a roof over it so that we could, like an arena, so we could ride. But then you would ride for a few hours and you go shoot guns, and all different type of guns, like sniper guns, you name it. I have pictures of guns that were bigger than me, that we were shooting. But it's a skill because of your coordination with your eyes and how quickly you move your eyes, and the steadiness and the concentration and the focus that requires. So then after you shoot guns, you go back to riding and flat tracking. But I guess I should say I was never really a gifted rider to start with. And I was terribly scared, so scared the bike would shake underneath me while I was holding on with a death grip, right? So I don't like to be shitty at things. And obviously, I went and sought a bunch of training to become better. And the better I got, I was like, well, maybe this is my calling. Maybe we'll try this. Maybe this is, I grew up trying to be, I shouldn't say trying, studying to be a doctor, but that wasn't my calling. I mean, that was my mother's calling, right? She wanted me to be in that profession to do the family proud. So I'm sitting here going, well, I didn't become a doctor, but this seems like an extreme. And how am I going to make money doing this? And anytime you have a passion, you find a way. And I did. Eventually I started instructing for a bunch of different organizations, and being the only woman at that time, it was a draw. And it helped them a lot. Although I think the guys that got me as an instructor weren't very happy because they got a girl. But that's why I wanted to be better. Yeah, I know. But I wanted to be better. I wanted to excel. And that goal that I set for myself was to become an expert racer, get my expert license, so that I could achieve that and know I got to a certain level. That's how I started. And that's why, that's kind of like a brief or not so brief description of what happened and how I got into it.
Was there a rebellion chase for adrenaline in that? Ooh.
I don't know, my brother,
housewife, mom.
I know. It seems like a really big extreme, like I had a midlife crisis, right? That's really what everybody thought. I mean, my brother, when I told him I was going to race motorcycles, and my brother, mind you, is a really good rider, and he does stunts. So he's been a stuntman in the Stuntmen's Association for, I want to say 20 years, maybe. Yeah. So he does a lot of martial art fighting within movies, but he also rides motorcycles in movies as well. And he was actually the one that got me into stunt work to start with. So I drove for movies for years and continuously off and on. But there's a running joke that the Lee family has this adrenaline like gene within us, that we are like these thrill seekers. And I laughed because I'm like, that's not me. But then now I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, maybe it is.
As you reflect back on it, it wasn't necessarily like this I got to do something completely different.
Right.
But it became that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not an adrenaline junkie per se, like most of the guys that I'm around, where they like thrive off of it. I kind of like I don't know, there's a strategy, because when you ride, you're not riding without purpose. There is this, you enter a corner, you apex a corner, you exit a corner, when, you can hit the throttle. A lot of time you're at lean, you can't really accelerate a lot at lean without a lot of risk, and I think about that, and I think about being an entrepreneur, and there's some, similarities
That's what I was going to ask is, you talk about being competitive, drive to be better, being very goal driven, obviously. Is that part of what drove you to entrepreneurship, or is this kind of something you might have looked back on and be like, oh, I can see the similarities there?
No, I actually never wanted to start my own company. I never wanted to. It was never a desire, but you know how it always works out. It's always the people that don't have the desire to do it that end up in it. And I don't know if that's just like some cruel joke for us that, we take these things on, but when you find something that you just love, and I fell in love with not just motorcycles and what it provided for me, because most people think of Zen as this quiet meditation. I think of Zen when my mind's going, and that's my meditation because it requires so much focus. And meditation is about focus. So this is just active focus for me, and I love it, and it fills me, and it fuels me.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this because I'm trying to visualize, never having raced, but ridden my motorcycle when I had one a few miles per hour too fast on the highway. What is that feeling? How does that fill up your cup? Maybe that's the way to ask that.
Okay, so in the beginning, well, don't do it on the street. That's my public service announcement.
Thank you. Safety.
That's what the racetrack is for, because we don't have police there, right? And you can go as fast as you want or slow as you want. But
have to cut that warning and put it at the beginning of the episode, right?
Yeah, well, we send it to the front. Yeah. By the way, please do not do this out on public streets.
All right, now tell us how to do it out on public street. No.
No. That's not the message we're sending. One more time, Otis. You were asking again. Oh, the speed thing.
Well, how does it fulfill you? Because one of my fascinations is people is what's their purpose?
The breathing and how slow everything becomes. And there is, when you're going really fast, what's really interesting is everything slows down. My breathing slows down because my concentration kicks in. And that's where that active meditation truthfully comes in for me. And it's just beautiful. People are going to think I'm fucking crazy. It's this beautiful dance within yourself. And that's what drives me, is finding that flow again. It's like, let's talk about golf. When somebody hits the perfect, swing, and the golf ball goes exactly where they want it to go, and they don't feel like the jarring of hitting the ball wrong clear up to your spine. That's what I love. And that's a feeling I go for all the time, because it's like almost like a rhythmic dance, because you're hanging off the bike, you're at one with your bike, it's doing what you want, because the only person that can make a mistake is you.
Where does competition fall into this?
Oh, it's been a while. I mean, honestly, it's been a while since I've competed on the racetrack at all, because I mainly switched to focusing on the business of track day events after, I think it's been a couple of years because of COVID. So.
Well, so what I mean is you're feeling that competitiveness feeling.
What is mine?
Does being on the track and beating somebody, or is it self-competition? What is it?
Self-competition, always pushing myself.
So you mentioned that you didn't have the desire to be an entrepreneur, and then talking about race day events and that kind of stuff. Was it that you saw the problem and you wanted to go fix it, or where did that come from?
So being an instructor for all those organizations, people gripe. And they of course are going to gripe to the instructor, right? Like, oh, the track day is so full. There was one track day, as a matter of fact, I instructed for, and I finally got off the track, and I went up to registration, and I asked the gal there, I'm like, how many people are in this session? Because it's about 2.2 miles of track, but it felt like a traffic jam all the time. And I couldn't, and I couldn't safely take my student around people at the level they were at. So I didn't want to risk it. So then I'm sitting behind a parade of people, and we're turning laps, and I can't get this person, the lesson that they want. And it was really frustrating for them. And they said to me, they go, I'm really sick and tired of really, overcrowded track days. When I asked the gal at registration, she said there were 88 people registered, not including instructors out there. So we were close to about 100 people on track. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine what that's like, that is literally just.
What size track are we talking? Just to help visualize it. Like what length, I guess?
2.2 miles.
Ooh, that's a lot of people.
So think about it. Yeah. I mean, it's like, just, you might as well go on the freeway, and do it for free, because you're not even going speed limit at that point. Right. So you can't really teach people, body positioning and those kinds of things when you're going so slow. It just makes no sense, because why would you? You might as well just sit there and just go around the track, because it's the safest thing to do, because you don't know the skill set of these people. And the people I was instructing tended to be in the intermediate group. And we lovingly call the intermediate group Thunderdome, because we have people that are, let's just say, beginner riders that are faster, but think they're really fast. So they should go to intermediate. And then we have people that are advanced riders that are too afraid to go to advanced, because those guys will bang bars with you, and they will scrape the paint off the side of your bike passing you. And if you're in advance, you're not allowed to complain at all. Mm-hmm. So this is where there's such a varied skill set within the intermediate group. And that's why we call it Thunderdome, because it's like every man for himself.
So how did you take that problem identification and bring it into a business model or a solution?
Well, I had some people say, I wonder if there would be another organization that would come in here and break it up, because there was really only two major ones at that time. And they said it would really be nice to have less people. And that is not a business model that works within this industry, because it's usually a pack it in and make as much money as you can kind of industry. Mm-hmm. And it would require somebody that really loved the sport. And in the beginning, it was very draining on the finances, right? Because I wanted to, I'm doing this for other reasons than making money. My belief is, mm-hmm. If you do it right, money will come. So, and we did. We just started it purely because, I was tired also of teaching in these types of track days where we would have what you would call, and I'm not sure anybody understands this that isn't into race cars or motorcycles, but we would have multiple red flags per session, or, consecutive sessions, which meant if you have a red flag, the box has to run. Mm-hmm. And when the box runs, that means, while the ambulance is out on track, everybody has to be off track. If there's a vehicle on the track, nobody's allowed on the track, which a lot of times meant you lost the rest of your session. So after multiples of that, you think about how much money you spent. How cheap did you, quote unquote, buy that track day? If every session you maybe got to ride 10 minutes less of that session because some, Yahoo took off and on cold tires and decided to go into turn one and wipe the shit out. And then the helicopter has to come, right? And then that can be 2 hours. So if you think about all those, if you do the math and you go, okay, exactly how much time did you have to ride? And then how much did you pay? So how much did you really pay per session? Because you may pay more on my day, but we really work hard at making sure we don't have red flags, that everybody's safe and courteous. And with that, with our limited riders, that makes it possible.
So how do you scale something like that as a business? Because you are limited to
correct
factors,
Oh my God, that is such a good question. It is almost impossible to scale. This is something out of a labor of love, thus various businesses.
Mhm.
I'm biting my tongue on, let's dive into that and come up with a solution, because
Well,
but I mean, there's
it's very limited.
yeah.
I mean, Otis, truthfully, how many people really are motorcycle riders? It scares the shit out of a lot of people, and I've had people that their parents decide, or the mother, I should say, decides that they want to ride a motorcycle because, they see a woman on a motorcycle and they think, oh, wow, I want to be that girl, right? And it's easier said than done. It is fucking terrifying the first time you do it,
Oh, yeah.
And then I've had their kids go, we don't want my mother to do this. It's too dangerous. And I said, you know what? I'll tell you something. Everything is dangerous. If you're educated and are skilled and are knowledgeable, and at that point, then it's equal to anything else that you do that you're skilled at, right? But there's this horrible misconception about motorcycles, and that we're all Harley riders or we're all hooligans, and you're putting us in a box, and we're not. Some of us are mothers, some of us are daughters. I mean, you're putting us in this box of we're just, I don't know, outlaw like citizens. It pisses me off, and I wish we could change that conception.
How would
It reminds me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure you were going to the same place I was on that, because it is that's an interesting thing, and I can think back to all the part of the reasons, some movies and things like that. But how would you change that? What would be the message that you would say to make that change?
If I could get into the high schools and even do something fun with them, because schools have changed a great deal. And it has been proven that people that ride motorcycles very competently are incredible drivers, because there's so much awareness that they have to have. They ride like they're invisible. I personally watch wheels. So when I'm riding out on, on the freeway, on the streets, whatever, people don't necessarily give you the right cues, but tires never lie. So I look at tires. And if I see them moving in my direction, I know they don't see me.
I was just going to say, this reminds me a lot of conversation. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So if I could do it in schools and take dirt bikes in schools, and before, maybe around the time they start doing driver's ed, allow them to also learn bikes. And we take dirt bikes into schools and train them, because entering a corner, apexing a corner, exiting a corner, that's really important. And especially when you're doing the windy roads, because maybe we'd have less people running off into the guardrails, and understanding that you can carry speed through a corner. In fact, carrying speed through a corner, and I'm not saying fast speed, but accelerating a little bit through the corner actually provides stability. So,
I think that's such an interesting thing, because you're talking about being on, like starting off with a dirt bike. And my first thought is that you get such a, I guess like the feedback loop is so much closer. And I can see how that can make them into better drivers, because even though, you go through driver's eds and all that kind of stuff, the feedback loop on a car is pretty delayed, actually, when you stop to think about it.
We call cars cages. Yeah. Honestly, if we could get kids understanding what being on two wheels is like, and it's not like a bike, not at all like a bicycle, right? The principles of it are the same. The counter steering is the same. But other than that, I mean, you've got speed on a motorcycle, on a dirt bike. And if we could get them, trained that way, I mean, I think there would be a lot more respect for seeing motorcyclists on the road as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm just thinking dirt bike 101, man.
Yeah.
I know my mom would have never let me take that class. All my buddies would have been in there, and I would have been so frustrated. I probably would have had to sneak into that class or something.
But it would be fun.
Yeah.
And, we all know that you learn when you have fun, which is why we do what we do, because for us, it's about people having fun so they have the capacity to learn.
Oh, and there's so many derivatives of that are rolling through my head. A good friend of mine here, Greg Sheldon. Greg's an auto mechanic, and he's teaching kids how to fix their own cars. Not necessarily in the SAE mechanic certification sense,
Sure.
but how do you change the oil? How do you check your tires? All those things that I grew up, and it's I just look at it as inherent knowledge. But nowadays, most folks get in the car and push the button. They don't even turn the key anymore. You push the button, and heck, we're probably with Tesla. We're probably just half a step from thinking about my car driving and it driving the way Tesla.
I hope not. There's going to be a lot of really bad drivers then out there if they have to use their brain.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Yeah. Well,
what I was going to say earlier, I wanted to jump in on something. Talking about everything being dangerous out there. I think that's such an interesting idea when you talk about these more, I guess, call them obscure, or fringe or whatever, hobbies and those type of things. I had this conversation just yesterday. I was out coaching rugby at a Boys and Girls Clubhouse, and all the kids are coming up to me wanting to, when are we going to tackle? When are we going to tackle? And I had to kindly explain, we're not going to tackle because I'm a responsible coach and I'm not going to get a bunch of 8-year-olds out there tackling right away. But I started having a conversation with one of the people who worked at the clubhouse who was hosting the event. And he's talking about rugby being dangerous and these kind of things. I kind of had a similar type response where it's like, well, everything's dangerous out there. If you come play rugby for me, one, your injury rate, I would like to think, is a lot lower than you go play for a lot of people out there, because I'm conscious of those things and always try to make it better because I love the sport so much. But then also I kind of made this joke to him because, he was a nice guy. And I was like, I was like, I felt comfortable busting his balls a little bit, but I was like, hey, if they go out there and run around with me and one of them breaks their arm, but they're all much healthier and their heart disease rate just went down because they're playing rugby every day. Like, which game are we playing here? What's the dangerous thing here? Because, life is danger. There's going to be danger in every single thing you talk about, when you start getting into the statistics of things. Yeah. Like one of my favorite stories around that is a parent talking about, or it's an economist who had kids. She's talking about how people always wonder, it's like, well, can I have a pool in my backyard? Like, what if there's guns at my kid's friend's house? Like, what if they're not locked up safe? And she's like, did you drive a car today? Like, that is the most dangerous thing you're going to do. And you're doing that every single day for miles and miles and miles. Those things are dangerous. Danger's built in. But yet we have this like aversion to, I guess, new danger. I don't know.
I just think people are so conditioned that this world is dangerous, period. And, why not do what our parents did, Otis? Like, honestly, if you think about it, our parents let us go run around. We got hurt, put a Band-Aid on it. You're good. Like there was no stress on, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. It was freaking go, because they were freaking sick and tired of us being in the house, right? So they wanted us out of the house. And if we came back crying, just like clean it up, put a Band-Aid on it, you're good. And there was never a big deal about it. And I don't know why we're trying to protect our kids. They're going to need to fall to learn, because when you fall really well and really good, you fucking don't want to do it again. Yeah. So you'll think about it.
We say the same thing. You do it all the time coaching rugby too, Dad, or when you used to coach. But it's like you get the football kid who doesn't know how to tackle right, and then they go make their first football tackle in a rugby game, and they get a knee to the head, and they go down like, oh, and they got to sit out for a while because they probably got concussion. Then you talk to them like, you're not going to do that again, are you? Because the pain is a great teacher. And I think to your point, Carol, if you try to eliminate pain, then you're removing all of those lessons that pain teaches. And also, you're not going to remove all of it, and you're going to find some danger somewhere else. You keep your kid inside playing video games, and then they're going to go blind because they're staring at the TV for 24 hours.
You're just literally putting a bubble around them, and they're not experiencing life. Come on, let them experience life. Let them have fun. Plus, there's something to be said about like these kids, if we did something like the dirt bike school, there's kids that their social skills might not necessarily be up to par, but this is the one place they blossom. and they gain their confidence. And if we can affect children like that too, where they feel like, I don't have to speak to somebody, I just need to be at one with this machine. There's a comfort level there, and they may excel at it. We may have the next motocross star. Who do we know, right? Come on. So I think we're limiting ourselves. Like, even I don't think the schools would go for it, quite honestly, because there would be so much risk involved, and the liability waivers that would have to be signed, and the insurance that would have to go behind it, because everything we do now requires all that being taken care of before you can even propose a program like that.
The perceived danger is more dangerous than the real danger, always is. So,
well, absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah. And that's where it all comes from, is that belief. Man, I'm sorry. I'm trying. I just want to get into putting up the whiteboard and talking about dirt bike 101 in high school. But there's a lot more going on that I want to get to.
Yes.
Because we've only talked about one business.
Right.
And I want to know what the other two are. Why in the world would anybody who is fulfilling her purpose in a business step over here and start a second one, and then go, yeah, well, that's probably not enough, I'm going to step over here and start a third one?
Because they all complement each other.
Let's hear it. How are these feeding into your guiding purpose principle?
And this will go to the message of, in order to create a large impact, you do have to accumulate some wealth in order to do it, and especially good people spreading good messages. And I don't think our children now are learning that. And so if they can actually see good people succeed, then they know they can too. So my second business really is my branding under Carpenter. So we have signature lines of products, and that feeds into it, right? Because I don't know, maybe it's egotistical, but I'll say it anyways. When they see a woman on a motorcycle that was later, she's older. I'm just put it that way. She's older. I hate to say that word, but yeah, she's older. It gives them hope. And they know that, I didn't come from fortune. I didn't have the path set out for me, so I had to work, and I had to scrape like everybody else, scratch and scrape to get where I am with everybody else, right? So if I could do it, and they had the perseverance to do it, they could do it too. And that fed into Moto Vixens. And then there's a media company too. And it creates a platform, not just for the motorcycles and for the branding, but to create even a larger impact through like book publishing, which is not like my big thing. We work with Indigo River. Mm-hmm. And so if there's some books that possibly Indigo River cannot publish or isn't in their vein, then they pass it off to us, as well as, we do media kits and things basically to help individuals create more leverage, because I guess I was the guinea pig for everything.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, though. It's if you walked the path and struggled and figured things out, then shouldn't it be your duty to share that how with other people to help them not have to go through those same struggles?
Which is what Moto Vixens was built on, because at the time I was the only woman, right? And being the only woman in the industry, you can't imagine how quickly they want to see you fail. And I didn't, and it pissed them off. And we had some serious moments where I wasn't sure I was going to be able to continue, because they were even going so far as to shut off my social media, and I was fighting to get it back on. And these were during the most crucial times of the season when I was making money and putting messages out there. hey, this is what you need to do for, gate to get in the gate. Don't forget this, don't forget that. That was where I was sending messages to people that were attending the day, and it was shut down. And if anybody has ever had social media shut down, it is so hard to get it back on.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's,
I guess, sorry, Deck, if you could speak a little bit on the importance, Carol, of creating something for others to work towards. How you didn't have that clear path, and then you created the path. Now you're the beacon that they can see themselves in.
Yeah.
What's that impact like?
Well, the hardships of doing this and surviving it. I don't want people to have to do what I did. I mean, that was a hard path. But if I could pave a way for women, to get into the sport easier, why wouldn't I do that? And for women to achieve levels within the industries, why wouldn't I do that? I've been around for 10 years. I pretty much know everybody at this point. If I don't know you, you're new.
Do you think it's, and maybe you haven't thought about this, but do you think it's more about showing maybe young women that this is a thing that they can do, or do you think it's more impact? So I think it's probably both, but which one do you think is more impactful, I guess? That, or the people who were already interested and then go, oh, I can stick with this because you've removed some of the hardships, like you're saying? Which one do you think has a bigger impact?
Probably a little bit of both, but seeing, nowadays, they're younger, they're coming in younger. And I love that, because when I was in it, what I saw, and this was like the demographic, which is really strange to me, was there was a lot of divorcees. Right. It was weird. Right. And now I see them coming in their 20s, early, even late 20s, and they have much more of a chance to getting up to the national level than we ever did. That wasn't my aim or goal anyways. For me, it was about my passion for the sport. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet with it, but I started the company and figured, I don't know, maybe the universe would give me the path that I was supposed to follow, so that, I could make this impact.
I'm gonna, yeah. I'm looking at my notes and my thoughts and stuff like that. I'm trying to stay back. I'm pushing away Dirt Bike 101. You and I are going to talk about that later.
Want me to grab the chalkboard?
Yeah, that might be your fourth company.
Christ, I'm already working on that one. That's not good.
That's awesome. All right. Well, here's the hard question. What the hell made you decide to sit down with all you got going on and write a book?
I wrote that book reluctantly because I was like a little petulant child. You
stomp your feet?
I did. I stomped my feet for literally a year and a half until they brought it up again. And so I have advisors that I've had now for, I want to say 3 years, and they're fantastic. But early on, and I don't know why they asked me to do it. They were like, write a book. I go, I'm not interesting enough to write a book. No, I'm serious. I actually told them that, right? And they were like, no, you need to write a book. And I was like, yeah, not interested. Don't have the time, right? Mm-hmm. Again, a year later. And finally, there was one point where they said, okay, now you're going to write the book. It was no longer you should, it was you are. Yeah. And so one of them helped me set up like an outline. And I said, my good friend, Reggie Walker, told me it took him 10 years to write his book. And I'm like, I don't have 10 years to write my book. Right. I don't want to write my book for 10 years. Again, the petulant child. And they were like, no, let's do an outline and let's discuss what we're going to make for each point. And I was like, okay. And I actually sat down and it happened to be my off season. And I said, if I'm going to do it, it's now or never. And I wrote that book in 6 months.
That's awesome. And I love the fact that you had the pokers, is what I'll call them. Yeah, I can see just that that feeling of God, I'll write the freaking book. Just leave me alone.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When I was done stomping my feet.
I had a question. I want to throw it out for both y'all. Just a thought as we're talking about, writing books. There's this sense of like watering down the medium. I think about a lot in terms of, the two examples that come to mind are podcasts and books. So podcasts, you hear everyone say this every time, everyone's got a podcast. Anyone can just go make a podcast, costs like $5 to get on Buzzsprout, whatever it was that we started. There's not a very high barrier to entry. You can self-publish your book on Amazon. There's lots of people out there who could, whether they have the merit to warrant the book or the podcast, can go out and do it now. I want to just kind of throw it out to both of y'all. Do you think that waters down the medium? Does that somehow decrease the value of books or of podcasts in a way?
Otis, you want to go?
The short answer is no. It doesn't water down the medium. One of my favorite business books, Blue Ocean Strategy, you're stepping into a red ocean. And as long as you understand that you're stepping into the red ocean, and the only way that you can survive in a red ocean is to find some blue water and differentiate yourself, it doesn't matter how many other people are already doing it. It doesn't matter what it is. Think about the history of books. When was the printing press first, used in like the 1700s or maybe even in the 16th? I think it was 17th century. So it was mid 1600s. The printing press was invented. So think about how many books are out there, and to say, well, I shouldn't write a book because, there's a gazillion books out there, or I shouldn't start a podcast because there's a gazillion podcasts out there. But if you've got a message, a story that could impact somebody, then why wouldn't you do it?
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with Otis in terms of no, I don't think it waters down the medium. I think there's a lot of people that go out there without a purpose for their book or for their podcast. And I think those are the ones that you're talking about, that these individuals really don't have anything to offer because they don't have a clear focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking about it, I think that maybe the average value of like the whole decreases because there's ones that aren't as valuable there. But to your point, Dad, that doesn't touch anything on your value. If you are still following your purpose, like you said, Carol, and you are putting out value and it has merit, then it doesn't matter how many other books are out there. It doesn't matter how many podcasts are out there. But that was just a thought I had while you're talking about your book. So sorry for the tangent on that. That was a good question.
Look at Joe Rogan, Camden. He started his and it was just like pretty much, freestyle, and look at him. And he has way more viewership than even, cable TV or regular TV for that matter. So who knows? I think it comes down to the individuals, right? And some people are, they think, oh, I need to have a podcast, but they are so uninteresting. So boring. And you're just like, how the fuck did you get a podcast, right?
Yeah.
$5 and a $20 mic. That's it.
But the ones that do succeed, these people actually have lived a life of some type. They have personality, they have accomplishments, they're educated, they're intelligent people. And the one thing that Joe Rogan has is he's an intelligent MFer, man.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I'm always surprised at that when he's throwing out stuff. I'm like, Joe, how many times you get hit in the head and you still know that?
Yeah. How many times are you smoking weed while you're running your podcast? The dude is actually very intelligent and he's funny. He's very, very funny. So, I don't think I think it's always the ones that you don't anticipate are going to be the ones that do it so well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm just, I think there should be a medical study on Joe's brain.
It goes all over.
well, here's my theory is all those concussions he suffered when he was fighting CTE, but now he's smoking dope. Is dope A cure for CTE.
Oh,
Oh, well, there's another PSA.
I think you got some Mike Tysons and some other people out there who probably agree with that.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole nother show.
yeah. We opened up a bunch of different subjects.
Yes. Yes, we've already got part 2, 3, and 4 lined up for you. Oh man. But I want to go into what I learned before I forget, because I keep looking back at my notes. When you see me looking down, it's looking at my notes going, dang. Because I'm kicking the can down the road because I got to pick something that I learned. And I'm going to go back to my newest favorite project, the Dirt Bike 101 in high school. And maybe I just need to buy another dirt bike and ride it down to the school and tool around in the parking lot with a little flag behind me and sell that.
We could even do it on a field. And that's the beauty of dirt bikes, right? With road bikes, we can't.
Right.
So we have to be on asphalt. And the truth is, there's so much power behind even like a 300, 400 now that I don't think parents would allow their kids to take that risk. On a dirt bike, you can get like a 125, you can get a 140, right? I think it's much more accessible to get because first of all, they're cheaper. Mm-hmm. And they're a great entry level, because if you learn the skills, you can pretty much transition then into, sport bikes or whatever bikes that you want, right? But the principles are there. You understand how to, control the bike, and you have more confidence by the time you transition to a street bike, or I'm sorry, a sport bike.
Yeah, or a car even.
Or a car even, yeah, because you do. And there's something about speed on a bike that makes you a better driver, because of the fact that you're going so fast, your mind processes at a much quicker level, that when you're, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but after being on track where you're, going close to 200 miles an hour, right? And you're braking and downshifting and maybe hitting a corner in, upper 60s, 70s, right? It's scary. But then you get out on the road after you've done this all day, and before you realize it, because you're so used to seeing the speed, it's so slow to you, you're speeding without even recognizing you're speeding, because your mind's processing so quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a stretch in my route coming home from Denver that's that way. You're on I-25 doing 80 plus, and you get off and you're on this nice two lane road for 4 or 5 miles, and it's like speed limit is 35 and 40, and it's like
Last time I drove up to y'all's house, I think I caught myself going like 55 through your neighborhood, because I was like, oh wow, I've been on the highway for 12 hours. Like, I gotta back off a little bit now.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's what your brain's now conditioned, right? Mm-hmm. With it's a comfort level, and if you're going slow, it feels real freaking slow.
Oh yeah. How about you, Camden? What'd you learn?
So I got two. I got a fun one and an interesting one. So the fun one is, I think, after we get Dirt Bike 101 going, I want to go to the Olympic committee, and I want to get biathlon 2.0 on there, do some racing and shooting, except on those motorcycles, like you're saying. I think that is the way to go. I think that we'll get people, the ratings on that will be through the roof for the Olympics.
I love it. Two of the things
exactly. But no, my other one was, Carol, there were two things that you said that reminded me of a book I've read. So if you do it the money will come, was one. And then if you need money to make an impact, there's an economics book I read, and the economist Frank Knight makes this really interesting hypothesis around how the entrepreneur who accumulates the most capital should be, and this is roundabout, but the theory is the entrepreneur who accumulates the most capital should be allowed to spend that capital the way they want, because the reason they've accumulated the most capital is because they are the best with said capital, and therefore will make the biggest impact with the capital. And so I know that's a little econ-y of a phrase, but it's basically that, we think about people making a lot of money being a bad thing and don't think about the impact that that money is making. And especially if you have the right person, the person who's conscious and wanting to make an impact, then they're going to make an even bigger impact. And then if you have a sustainable business model that makes more money, then you're making an even bigger impact. And so I thought that was just a really interesting way of painting that picture, because when I read that, I thought that was such a fascinating theory. And then I think about, Jeff Bezos and Amazon workers pissing in water bottles and stuff while they're working. I was like, okay, well, maybe not him, but it's an interesting theory as far as who should be, or, entrepreneurship and spending your money.
It really boils down to the individual, right? At the end of the day, it's the individual that makes that impact, because you can be swayed, and sometimes money does sway people and change them. And if you view money differently, if you view it as a tool, it makes it much easier, because money comes and goes. We've all had a lot. We've all had very little, and at the end of the day, yeah, having very little sucks, but having a lot doesn't fulfill you either, not unless you have something to do with it.
Yeah. What'd you learn, Carol?
I learned you guys are a lot of fucking fun.
Cue up hour 2.
There you go.
I honestly, it's funny. Sometimes you need people to process things with, and you asking these questions about scalability. It's not a question that I haven't been asked before, but I'm further down the line than I was originally, right? And when that person asked that question, so having these, having in a way a brainstorm session was awesome, because I have thought about it, but I've actually never verbalized it. It's a different thing to have it up here than to have it out in the world.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by that. You can think it all day in the shower by yourself, but you turn around and try to explain it to somebody. It's much different when it comes out of your mouth. And then you take it one step further and you write it down, and it's like, dang.
Yeah, thus the book. When you write it, it's there.
That's right. It's
Dad, I got to challenge you, because we both did a fun one and a real one. So you did your fun one, Dirt Bike 101. Do you have another real one, since we're all doing 2?
That wasn't real. I mean,
all right. Well, then send me the business plan by next Friday, Dad.
I mean, there's so much. I think, I don't have time today, but I'm going to give my buddy Greg a call and say, dude, I've got to throw something at you. And I know he's going to. Oh, he's going to be beside himself. What? Oh, that's all. Yeah. So.
What I love is we would be getting them in at an age where you could help them build confidence. But even better, make better drivers of most of the people in this world, so they're not so inattentive.
Yeah. Which affects a whole lot of people.
I was going to say, I'll do a little study on the economic impact when you get less crashes around teenage drivers and all that. So, all right, we got the business plan. Okay, I retract my question, Dad.
Will hate us, but everybody else will love us.
Yeah. Carol, how do folks
all those
follow
nerds.
you? How do folks follow you, learn more about what's going on with you, with Moto Vixens, sign up for a race day, whatever?
Track day. Track day, yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Moto Vixens. I am also Moto Vixens on Facebook page, and LinkedIn, Carol Carpenter, Twitter at Moto Vixens.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, I promised you the other day I'd tell you this phrase that I was thinking of. This would be a perfect time to say it. Camden's giving that look like, oh shit.
So, do I need to write down the time for Norman to edit this?
Yeah. When did you decide to become a motorcycle racist? So that was my improper. That was my Texas grammar coming out.
He's like, what is somebody who races? That's racist? And we were on a business call just shaking our heads at him. Like, I don't think that's the term, but you can ask Carol.
Yeah, no.
No, that doesn't work. Doesn't
work.
Racer, yes. Like I said, my Texas grammar school education coming through on how to put that together. Carol, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you joining us today and getting a lot out of everything from having that adrenaline rush when you're in focus, that mindset focus, man. Really appreciate your time.
Thank
Camden,
you. Thank you for
Camden.
having me.
Yeah. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Cam and Otis Show. And a special thanks to our guest, Carpenter, for joining us today. And of course, our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. Get started for free today at findyourpurpose.coach. Make sure to follow the Cam and Otis Show on Instagram and Facebook. And please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Videos of the podcast are on our YouTube page, and you can always get a full archive of the episodes at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.